Hi, this is Lori from Shoo Shoo Paper Art, and today I've got some cute watermelon projects. This cute little treat bag and a card, all made from circle dies. And then this cute little bag that's made from a printable from my blog. So let's get started. Let's start with the treat bag here. All right, so circle dies are what you're going to need to make these. I use these We Are Memory Keepers nesting circles. I use the largest one, which is about a 5.5 inch circle, and I also use the fourth one down, which is about 4 3/4. Okay, I used 80-pound paper for this. You'll need a green circle and a pink circle. Now, one thing that I want to mention is if you use pattern paper, it makes a difference whether this is straight or not. When you cut this in half and it's not straight, it looks really odd. So I have a couple of tricks to make sure that your paper is straight. For one thing, I marked the center of my dies. Now, for me, that wasn't as easy as it sounds. So I came up with a way to make that work. Let's use this smaller die for an example. So I cut a circle, and I didn't worry about whether it was straight or not, just cut it. And then the piece that I cut out, I went ahead and folded it in half, and I laid that cut piece back inside the circle and marked where the halfway is. Then I put my die back in there, and then used a pen to mark those half marks there actually on the die, so that when I actually lay it on the real paper that I'm going to use, polka dots, I can line it up with a row of dots, or where the plaid is concerned, the gingham, I can line it up with one of the green lines or one of the white lines, whichever one I want to use. One thing that I would recommend in making this particular bag is that when you go ahead and line it up with a particular row of dots, go ahead and make a mark that lines up with your marks on your die, on your paper, so that when you fold this in half, it'll be so much easier to know where that is. So once you have your green paper cut and your pink paper cut, then you need to cut them in half, and you've got that nice handy mark, and you can use it as your guide. Okay, so once you have those cut in half, you don't need to do anything else with the green piece yet, but you'll notice that the pink, there's a layer of white underneath. Now you can leave that straight without the scallop, and if you do that, just use a little bit larger circle die to do that. I found it easier if I was going to make the scallop, though, to go ahead and take that pink half and glue it down to a white sheet of paper. And then I just used my scallop scissors to cut all the way around the pink circle to make that cute little scallop edge. And it doesn't need to be really big, and it also doesn't really matter if it's perfectly the same all the way around. It just looks really cute. I like it as a scallop. So that's entirely up to you, though. You could leave it straight and it looks just as good. All right. So once that's done, you're ready to put the green and the pink together. For my particular dies and the look of it, I kind of liked the pink sticking up a little bit off the edge. So you might think about that too. It could be perfectly even down on the green, or it could be sticking up just a little bit. The first thing I did was go ahead and use my pinking shears and pink the edge of the pink and white paper. Now that's also a preference. You could certainly go ahead and leave it straight. Okay. Once I had that pinked, then I glued on the pink paper to the green. Kind of checked it on the back side. I found it easier to look and see if it was somewhat straight. Okay, so there we have the pink and green together. Now on my blog, you will find that I have a printable with the watermelon seeds and also the two sentiments that I used on the bag and the card. So I just simply cut out these watermelon seeds to use on the bag and the card. I used 3 on each side, and that of course is also just a preference. You could do whatever you want to on these. I just started in the center, glued one on, and then I kind of tilted the other 2 towards the center. Oops. And that's also just your preference. You could put them on straight, you could put more than 3, whatever you want to do. Okay, now of course you'll do the exact same thing again to make the other side of the bag. Now we need to make this middle portion of the bag. Now, I'm sure there's an algebraic equation to figure out how long that piece needs to be. I just found it much easier to do it low-tech, low math way, and just use a piece of string, lay it on the edge, a starting edge, and go completely around. Oops, the watermelon. Let me start here. There we go. Go completely around the watermelon to figure out how long you need that piece to be. So there's my string. Laid it on a ruler, and I figured out that I needed 8 3/4 for my strip. Now also the width that you make the strip is kind of dependent on what you want, but add an inch to the width of your strip for tabs. So my strip ended up being 2 1/4 by 8 3/4. Okay, so when you have that cut, you can use your score board or just a ruler and bone folder to make those 1/2 inch scores. And you want a 1/2 inch score down each long length. Okay, once you have that done, I went ahead at this point and curved it a little bit. And you'll probably want to do it again later as well. Okay, so once you've curved it a little bit, now we're going to make some tabs along each side. Now, I didn't measure these. I just kind of snipped, I'm guessing maybe every 3/4 to an inch. And if for some reason something doesn't work quite right, you can always go in and make the tab a little bit smaller. Like I ended up with this one on the end being smaller than these down here, and that's perfectly fine. Once I made the snips, then I'm going to go in and angle off and make tabs out of these. So I'm going to start in, and I'm not angling very much, I'm just cutting off a little tiny bit. I'm going to do that on each of the snips. I'm going to angle in on both sides, make a little triangle, and get rid of that so that I have a tab. Now I'm going to go ahead and continue doing that. Once you have all the tabs cut, just go ahead and fold on your score lines. Now you're ready to put it on one side of your watermelon. You want to make sure it's nice and curvy. Make sure those are nice and folded in. I started by putting glue on just 3 or 4 tabs and then adding the glue from there as I went. You want to be sure and hold that first one and make sure it's nice and tight. You can also use double-sided tape for this. I just find it, for me, easier to be able to move it around a little bit with glue. I don't like the these little points of the tabs showing, so sometimes you need to manipulate that just a little bit, and it seems to be easier with glue. Once that side's done, you're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. That's all to making the watermelon bag, the base of it. It's pretty easy, and it's also really cute. The only other things I did here is I hot glued green ribbon in and then tied a bow on top with some more ribbon and twine, and used one of the sentiments from the Printable on my blog. So that is all for that cute little watermelon treat bag. Okay, so let's take a look at the card. The card is going to be made a lot the same way. Only this is probably a lot quicker and a lot easier. Basically, I'm starting with the exact same circles from the previous project, and I have done it the same way to make sure it's fairly straight. I've got my marks there so that I can see where the center is, and let's go ahead and get those folded in half. And I also found it easier to go ahead and score these instead of just fold them. So I'm going to use that mark that I made as a guide, and I'm going to line it up with one of the troughs here. And I want to make sure that I get it lined up all the way down. So I'm going to use the 3-inch trough. I'm going to roll my score tool down that trough, and then I'm going to line up the start. This is the row that I'm using. So I want those dots to be in the 3-inch trough, and I can see that my dots line up. So I can stop there and go ahead and make my score. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing with the green. I'm going to line it up on the 3-inch and score it. All right. So all we need to do now is fold these in half. Fold in half. Okay, now again, if you're just going to leave the white straight and not scalloped, then I would just use another white circle that's a little bit larger than this one. I did find that it's easier to fold the pink over the green if there's not another circle there. It fits better on the score, and also it opens, the card opens easier if it's just those two layers. So you might think about that. You might think about cutting your circle in half if you use just a circle to do it, so that you have just these two layers on the fold. I'm going to do this exactly the same way as I did before. I'm just going to use the paper here from my printout. I'm going to glue the pink circle. I think first I'm going to erase that mark off. Make sure that doesn't show. Okay. I'm going to just glue one side to the paper. And then I'm going to cut around it using my scallop scissors. And then it's as simple as gluing all of that to the green. Then you can use the watermelon seeds from the printout. I just did that same thing and just did 3 on the front. I used one of the sentiments and just added a little bit of ribbon. Okay, so super easy and really cute. All right, last thing, let's talk about this small watermelon colored treat bag. This is a printable. On the blog, and of course all of those supplies and the blog post will be linked so that you can find this very easily. It will look like this when you print it out. You will simply need to cut it all the way around the edge so that it will look like this when you are through. Now this is gusseted on the sides, so that gives you just a little bit more room to fill it with some goodies. So once you've cut it out, then the only thing you need to do is go ahead and fold it on where it will meet the top. And then we're going to score these gussets. Okay, this is really easy. On each side, you're going to score. Let me move some of my stuff here so I can get my scoring tool in here. All right. We're going to score at 1/2 inch, 1 inch, and then 1.5 inches, which will be right along where the pink is. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to score at 1/2 inch, 1 inch, and also 1.5 right along that pink edge. Once you have the gussets scored, then all you have to do is fold those gussets. And you're going to fold it completely in, fold it back, and then fold it over again. Do the same thing to the other side, fold it completely in, fold it back, and then fold it forward again. Okay, the glue will go right along those folds. You could also use double-sided tape, whatever you're most comfortable with. And you're just going to take that bottom piece. You might need to push those gussets in just a little bit. And you're going to glue it. And there is your little gusseted bag. You can decorate it any way you wish. Mine is a frame from Lawn Fawn called Fancy Frames. I've got a little clip here with some twine, and this is an old stamp set from Paper Tray Ink that I'm unfortunately don't think it's available anymore. Okay, so that is the watermelon printable bag, the watermelon card made with circle dies, and the watermelon treat bag made with circle dies. Thank you for joining me today. You can always find me at shushupaperart.com.